Creepers left to rise, buzz like crazy. Everybody's trying to steal my lady. Spiders in the mirror and feel this can't be right. Back to the scene of a Friday night, to a blessed collision still frozen tight. Spill drinkers, Cupid and the sound of her first chime. And why did you argue? We're dreaming of those eyes, the best part of my life. And when we make love, babe, the world don't make a sound, the clock won't turn around. Slowing things down when I wanted to race, catching up again when you try to chase. Feels like we're playing space. You always find a way to make up, right? Even when we're such a fly, even when tensions run high, you gotta soften up your sleeves, girl. You're never enough, babe. Dreaming of those eyes, best part of my life. Cause when we make love, babe, the world don't make a sound, the clock won't turn around.
Hello, my friends. Hello. Welcome back to my channel. Kazi, come here. Kazi had to come and say hello too. He's such a big, pretty boy, huh? Oh my goodness, you're sliding off my lap. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the vlog. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a vlog. We're starting a new reading vlog today. It's Monday. We're gonna see what I'm gonna... Hey, no, you can't. Those are not for puppies. Oh my gosh, he's so cute, you guys. He's so cute. Huh? Anyway, welcome to the vlog. So I just barely finished filming. I gotta move that. He's gonna try and get my... I have a little bit of chocolate candy up there. And don't worry, I won't let him get it. But boy, he would like to have it. Okay, friends, so Hi. Let's do a reading vlog. I just finished filming the closing clip for last week's reading vlog, which was kind of a disappointing reading week. So now I'm ready to have a great reading week. And I feel like I haven't done a historical romance reading vlog. So what I want to try and do this week is I want to try and read new to me historical romance authors. So let's see, hopefully I was just looking through my Audible library because I was like, I feel like I've got some historical romances in here that I don't remember having. I just had that idea. So I went and looked, and sure enough, I do have historical romances in here that are actually from authors that are even new to me. So the one I want to go with first is by Madeline Hunter, and if you are online in the book world, you probably heard that Madeline Hunter recently passed away, and I have never read her before. I have some of her books physically somewhere among all my many shelves, but I did end up buying just the other day, not the other day, this was a while back, several months ago, I bought, when Audible was having like a really big sale, I ended up getting one of her books. It is called Heiress for Hire. So I don't know what it's about, but I just saw it in here. It's one of the more recent ones that I bought on Audible. This basically says, oh my goodness, that is, okay. Minerva Hepplewhite has learned the hard way how to take care of herself. When an intruder breaks into her home, she doesn't swoon or simper. Instead, she wallops the rogue over the head and ties him up, only to realize he is Chase Rednor, the man who nearly got her convicted of her late husband's murder. Okay, I'm very interested in that. This sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, he's insisting that Minerva has inherited a fortune from his uncle, a wealthy duke. Only one thing could surprise her more. You guessed it. Her sudden attraction to this exasperating man. Chase can't decide whether Minerva is a wronged woman or a femme fatale. Either way, he's intrigued. Since the scandal surrounding her husband's death, she has set up a discreet detective business to rival Chase's own. That's fun. A little bit of maybe Miss Scarlet and the Duke, which I know he left and it's very sad. She may be the perfect person to help him uncover the truth about his uncle's demise, but as proximity gives way to mutual seduction, Chase realizes he craves a much deeper alliance. So is this... Okay, yeah, I missed that when I read it earlier. So yeah, she was married to... Right? I don't know. It doesn't really say. So was his uncle her husband? Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to go with that one. That's the one we're going to go with first. I'm excited about this. It's not a very long audiobook. I feel like the cover looks so familiar. I hate when I do this. I do this all the time. I may have this book physically somewhere. I really may. So then the other option, I'm gonna actually, hold on just 1 minute. I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna pull a few books from my shelves that I also want to try to read that are going to be, well, if I'm doing new to me author, I'm gonna get new to me author. So hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I just went and looked at my shelf, just this one right here, and there are, I wonder, shoot, okay. So there are a few that I can go with. Let's see. So I pulled two off of my shelf because I do want to go through my physical books, but I also know that I have books that are just an Audible that I don't own physically, and I think I may want to go with one of those. Let's see. Let's look at some of these that I have on Audible. So, okay, I believe I've heard good things about this one. So, okay, so one possibility after I finish the Madeline Hunter is Heart of Shadows. This is by Rebecca Ruger. This is Heart of a Highlander series, book 1. I feel like I have a couple of hers. I think that these actually, if you have an Audible account, like a membership, I think that they're included with Audible Plus. So that's a bonus. So that one is, this one was published in 2022. This says orphaned Isabel is 14 when she first comes to Wolseley by the Sea, traveling with her cousin to see her wed to the formidable Liam McTavish. She's unimpressed with both her current situation and her cousin's husband. She thinks he's aloof and arrogant, well deserving of her cousin, so she must not like her cousin. But then Liam intercedes on her behalf against a mean-spirited tormentor, and everything changes. Let's see. So he marries her cousin. He's very happy to leave his new bride and go to war in defense of Scotland. He doesn't return for 5 years, most of which were spent at an English prison. He's been renounced by his father. He was left to rot. He finds Wolseley, the town, not at all as he remembered. It's a derelict and all but abandoned, save for the redoubtable Isabel, whom he barely recalls. And, so is Isabel his wife? I thought that was the cousin. I don't know. Okay, let's see. He finds Wolsey not as he remembered, save the redoubtable Isabel, whom he barely recalls, and an improbable cast of characters, so good side characters it sounds like. Both Liam, I know how to talk, I promise, and Isabel are tormented by grim shadows from Wolsey's past. Isabel's fierce independence and easy smiles hide a far greater tragedy than Liam can ever imagine. Liam's savage mien and coldness suggest he knows nothing else. Can they overcome the past, leaving behind the cruelty caused to each of them by the same person? I don't know. I'm interested in that. Curious, because that summary doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, because what happened to her cousin? What happened to her? Anyway, that's an option. Heart of Shadows. I am really curious about that one. I would like to start that one soon. And then, depending on what I'm in the mood for, these are the two that I pulled off of my shelf that are new to me authors. So all of these are new to me authors. This one is Bethany Bennett. This one came out not too long ago, I feel like. Let's see if it will focus on my face. So this one is Any Rogue Will Do. For exactly one season, Lady Charlotte played the biddable female the ton expected. All it got her was society's mockery and derision. Now she's determined to be in charge of her own future. So when an unwanted suitor tries to manipulate her into an engagement, she has a plan. He can't claim to be her fiancé if she's engaged to someone else, even if it means asking for help from the last man she would ever marry. Ethan Viscount Amesbury made a lot of mistakes, but the one he regrets the most is ruining Lady Charlotte's reputation. Going along with her charade is the least he can do to clean the slate and perhaps earn her forgiveness. Pretending to be in love with the woman he's never forgotten is easy. What isn't easy is convincing her to give him a second chance. That sounds really good. That actually does sound really good. So I'm definitely interested in that one. And then the other one is by Olivia Drake. Would be great if you would focus. Olivia Drake, Forever My Duke. This one says Hadrian Ames, the Duke of Clayton, needs a bride. He even has the perfect one picked out, that is, until he meets the lovely, free-spirited Natalie Fanshawe. She's the opposite of what a man of his high rank should desire in a wife, an outspoken American who has never even set foot in a London ballroom. That sounds pretty fun already. But Natalie doesn't have time to be swept off her feet by a handsome duke who must be a spoiled scoundrel like every other British lord, and she couldn't care less about Hadrian's title. After all, it's not as if he actually worked to attain his wealth and status. That's fun. He surely can't understand what it's like to be a busy woman planning to open a school while trying to reunite a 6-year-old orphan with his English relatives. Nevertheless, Hadrian launches his campaign to win her heart. Can the utterly delightful American beauty ever find a way to love him despite his being a duke? These all sound really, really fun. They sound really good. I think that just based off of the summary alone, I'm probably most interested. This one sounds like something I would like, just based off of the summary, but Heart of Shadows intrigues me because I feel like we're not really getting a lot of what the story is about just in the summary. So anyway, those are some options. I'm not sure which one I will go with after I finish, but the first one is definitely going to be Heiress for Hire by Madeline Hunter. I'm going to start that right now. And yeah, it's Monday, so I've got all week to hopefully get a lot of reading done, and I will come back and tell you guys how it's going. See you soon. Thanks for being here, by the way. Hello friends, welcome back to the vlog. So today is actually Tuesday. I have been working for about 2 hours already today. And usually what I do is, I'm including a little bit, not lifestyle, I'm just talking to you about life. I'm not a lifestyle vlogger and I never will be. But I don't know, I've been watching some vlogs recently, and I've really been enjoying just the chats about everyday life from Chandler on her vlog channel, and Olivia, I always really love, and Kayla. And I don't know, I'm still obviously going to talk about the books, but I thought I would just chat with you while I put this overnight curler in my hair, just about life. I don't know, not like, that sounds like I'm about to say something like big life changes. No. I'm so good at this, right? When it comes to just talking about myself and not about books, like, I'm not great at that. Anyway, it's about 10 o'clock. Usually, what my go-to habit has been, like, I just go to the gym first thing in the morning. Like, as soon as everybody's out of the house, that's usually what I do, is I go to the gym. I have recently felt like that is wasting a bit of my time. Not that is wasting my time, but I am not using my time wisely, because if I go to the gym first thing in the morning, then I'm like, okay, I gotta stop at the grocery store right next door to get something for dinner. And then by the time I get home, it's time to let the dogs out and take care of them for a while again. And I just feel like I'm losing productive time where I could be working on my Tumble creatures, you know, like using my time more efficiently. I'm really, honestly, truly trying so hard to be better about time management. It's something that I just have always struggled with. I always take on more work than I can do, and I work hard, but I'm just like trying to figure out how to use my time better. So I'm not going to the gym first thing anymore. I read something a little while ago that's like, do your most important work of the day as soon as you wake up. This is something I hate about overnight curls, is the way that the ends, my ends anyways, probably all ends, because that's where most of your damage is going to be and you're wrapping it tightly, but it gets like curls that are very reminiscent of sponge roll curlers. If you grew up in like the 90s or the late 80s, you maybe remember those, or before. That's when I grew up. So my plan for the day is I worked for a couple hours. I thought I would throw a load of laundry in and update you guys on my reading, because I'm going at noon, so in about 2 hours, a little less than that, I'll have to leave. I'm gonna go have lunch with my son and husband. My son, who just got married. They just got married, and yeah, so he doesn't live at home, so we're gonna go have lunch, all of us. A rare occasion where both of their schedules aligned. Oh my gosh, I have to sneeze. So I'm re-putting these in because I figure I wanted my hair out of my face. I'm just sitting here at home working for the next 2 hours. Why not just put them in, and then that way, bada bing, bada boom, my hair is out of my face, and then maybe it will have a little bit more curl. I mean, it's a pretty good curl. It's been out for about 4 hours now. Anyway, so my plan is work all morning, go have lunch with my family, and then go to the gym after that. And then my other son, who still lives at home, he's been staying after school studying for it's AP test season. You know, he's got a bunch of AP tests coming up next week that he's stressed about, so he's been staying late after school. I don't know why any of this is interesting to you, but you'll have to let me know if you don't care about lifestyle stuff. Just like, you don't have to say anything. But there we go. Now my hair is up and out of my way, and we can go back to working. Let's go back to my studio and talk about the books. Books, because I'm reading 2 right now. And let's go do that real quick. I mean, like, look, this is what I've been working on so far. They're going to be little jackalopes with flower crowns. They're going to be super cute. Busy, 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 busy. Wonderful. So grateful for the work. Truthfully, I'm always grateful for the work. It's just difficult to manage. Okay, flipping the camera around. Also, those jackalopes is just a small fraction of the orders that I have to get done. So anyway, let's talk about the books, shall we? I don't know why I put my headphone back in. I'm not listening to audiobooks on the walk from my bathroom to my desk. So I'm almost halfway through Heiress for Hire. I listened to that most of yesterday. It's moving very quickly, so I wanted to give you like my first impressions of this author's writing style and how I feel about the story like overall. So her writing style is solid. I don't have a problem with her prose at all. That's something that I always just am so grateful for with most historical romance authors, is their writing style is very tight, it's very good, it's very solid, like it's just usually top tier. And some authors go even further and develop like a really beautiful, or even like a very almost like rom-com-y type of vibe, like a Julianne Long. Anyway, writing style is great. I do feel like this book, you know, because this is the one where her husband died, and she just found out she's inheriting a fortune from a duke. And the duke is the uncle of a man who she finds like in her room, and she kind of like knocks him out, and then everything unravels from there, where people are trying to figure out, mostly the man who knocks her out, who is going to be the love interest, or not, she knocks him out, he doesn't knock her out. His name is Chase, and he has a detective business that he's running, and he's kind of hired to figure out, like, who killed his uncle, and why is he leaving his fortune to this heiress who nobody can figure out the connection between the two of them, right? So that's sort of this overarching mystery of, why did he leave all of this money to her? Like, what is she to him? And nobody really seems to know. Minerva, for her part, she's a great heroine. Like, I really, really like her. I think she's written really well. I think she's very easily to relate to because of, she's gone through it with the death of her husband, but even before that, there are some details in here the author is giving us that show us that her marriage was very unhappy, and she very specifically has some hesitancy and a distaste for intimacy based on, we don't get a lot of details, what happened with her deceased husband. And so a large portion of this book is her kind of feeling those sexual desires for men or intimacy, sex, sort of like awaken within her that she hasn't felt for so long because of her dead husband. And I honestly, I feel like that is often talked about in historical romance, and I'm always pretty interested in that as a plot because I think it's really interesting, and it's always, usually, not always, but it's often a beautiful journey to see the heroine go through something that has been very traumatizing to her and sort of realize that there's nothing wrong with her. You're not broken. It's not you. It's this man and what he did to you and what he put you through. And a lot of times that comes through feelings that she's noticing in response to the hero, and also how he treats her. And I just, honestly, I never get tired of that. I think that's just such a beautiful subplot in romance. I adore that aspect so much. So there is a big emphasis on her feeling attraction to Chase, and not a whole lot else. And again, this is something that also I feel like is typical of this type of a plot in historical romance, because Chase, who is not ashamed of his sexual desires, he does notice right off the bat, I'm attracted to her, I desire her. So on his part, it's interesting because what you're getting is him, and this is where, it's very reminiscent of the times historical romance. It's something that we know and we love about it, but he's starting to see her as a person, and he's starting to admire her and respect her and see her as more than just basically like a female body or a vessel for his pleasure, which I think is typical for these types of men, to sort of relegate women to these roles of, you are only to be used in the bedroom. There's nothing really else that you have to offer. And I always typically will enjoy seeing the hero kind of awaken to the fact that, oh my gosh, she's a person, which seems a little bit weird, but that is something that happens in historical romance often. And I always love to see how this one woman is sort of breaking that down for the hero, and he's like, oh, maybe I've been wrong about women overall. I just have maybe met women who fit the stereotype in my head, or they fulfilled that part because that's all I was asking of them, that's all I was seeing. So I am excited to see what happens between the two of them. I will say that this book so far, I'm not entirely sure. If I were to rate this now, I would say it was a solid 3, only because I think that there has been a lot of build up to the story plot. This whole situation with the Duke who left her a fortune, and you have a lot of side characters introduced, and it feels like it was it's not quite halfway through, and we're not really sure of any type of romance. There's just hints of it right now, which is fine. I mean, I do love a slowly built, slowly developed romance, but yeah, so I think that this book took a long time to set the stage and really to get into the meat of the story, and for that reason, I'm listening to it pretty quickly, but it wasn't necessarily, captivating me. You know what I mean? I just choked on some water. So yeah, so far it's sitting at about, a 3-star. Sorry about my voice. And I'm really curious to see where it goes. So, as far as a new-to-me historical romance author, I am interested and intrigued enough to read more of this author's backlist. But it's not, blowing me away. It definitely does feel formulaic in the sense that I've read this same pattern of a historical romance multiple times before. You know, the whole thing of, like I was talking about earlier, and it's not a bad thing, but it's not differentiating it enough for me to be like, that's an author that I really love. It's like, it's pleasant enough, you know? And honestly, I have a suspicion that that may be how I feel about all of these authors, unfortunately. I just sort of feel, with the exception of the medieval Scottish one, like that one I think has the potential to wow me for sure. But I do feel like this just fits into a niche of a familiar enough historical romance that, you know, you've read, the writing's solid, the plot is good, the setup is good. You know, she's giving you a lot of sexual tension between the two of them, but I still remain looking for, but what else? The like wow factor, I guess, of a new author that I read where I'm like, wow. And I'm not really getting that yet. So, and I don't know that I will, but that doesn't mean that it's bad, right? It's just that I feel like it's been such a long time since I have discovered a new author that I can like share with you guys. Well, that's not true, because the Convergence by Etta Pierce sci-fi romance, that was introduced to me by my patrons, but that was phenomenal. That was so good. I talked about that in my March wrap-up. And then Drinker of Ink by Shannon Castleton, I believe. That was also recommended to me by a patron and friends, Aaron and another Aaron. So those are the two that I feel like were exceptional standouts this year, like discoveries. Actually, I read Drinker of Ink last year. It was like the last book I read before the end of the year. But I feel like I haven't stumbled across an author that I'm just like, wow. And specifically a historical romance author. Like, it's been a long time. I feel like the last historical romance author that I like discovered, I'm not saying I was the first one to do it, but that I felt like I need to share her with you is Erin Langston, you know? And with the state of historical romance being, like, not really publishing anymore, I fear that maybe that will happen less and less. I don't know. We'll see. It is very refreshing, though, after reading a lot of, like, contemporary romances, and some fantasy romances that weren't really up to my standards of what I feel like great writing is. It is just such a relief and a joy to come to a historical romance, and even if the storytelling it does feel formulaic, like, reading the prose of a historical romance author who is well established in their craft and is, you know, has been writing for several years, it's such a joy just to read their prose, and that you don't get that. Honestly, you don't get that in most other romances, and I think, you know, it comes with time, but the fact that historical romance is trending downward and there aren't a ton of newly published historical romances, it just makes me sad, because I feel like these authors have worked so hard and they've written so many books and they've honed their craft so much to get to this level, and obviously, like, this author has recently passed away, that I feel like, is this just going to be a lost art? You know, is this going to be a lost art? Which brings me to the other book that I'm reading. So today is Tuesday, and it's the release of King of Envy by Anna Huang. So I did actually put this book on pause, Heiress for hire, and I did start King of Envy. So I just had to. I love Anna Huang, and I love being very excited for a new release that's coming out, so I started it. And I know this vlog is new to me, historical romance authors, so we'll see how I feel, if I'm going to include that in this or not. It will definitely be in my April wrap-up, which honestly you'll probably see way before you see this vlog. So I'm going to talk about it for sure. But yeah, I'm going to put the Heiress for hire. I keep saying that and I'm like, is that the title? It is. I am going to put this a little bit on hold and listen to King of Envy. So, alright my friends, I will be back with an update when I have more to talk to you about. Hello friends, welcome back to the vlog. Okay, so I finished both King of Envy, which I gave 5 stars, absolutely loved it. I'm not going to talk about it in this vlog because I want to keep this just to new to me historical romance authors, but I absolutely loved King of Envy. I thought it was perfection. I loved it so much. So, but no surprises because I love Anna Huang very much. So let's talk about Heiress for Hire is the historical romance that I read. New to me author, Madeline Hunter. So I feel like for a lot of this book, I kept kind of waiting for both the plot to kind of pick up and the romance to pick up, and I feel like what happened here is something that happens often in a lot of books that kind of try to combine genres like that. Like it happens in fantasy romance a lot. And I feel like it's especially prevalent in some historical romances where a mystery plot is kind of the big part of it. I think that it can be really hard for the author to maintain interest in both the mystery and in the romance. And so for this one, I just remember feeling like I finished this yesterday, so a long time ago to be remembering it. But there just really wasn't a lot about the romance to get me invested. This book didn't have really any of the emotional punch that I look for in a historical romance, and also the mystery was drug out so much that it's not even resolved by the end. I'm assuming that, like, the whole mystery element, one of the main mystery elements, is what happened to Chase's uncle, that like who killed him. That's kind of the mystery, and why is he leaving this money to these three women. So the series is going to follow the other two women who he's left the money to, and so I'm assuming you don't find that out until like the very end of the trilogy. But honestly, like, I did decide to give this 3 stars. I don't think there's anything wrong with this book at all. I think it's really well written. I think that they had good dialogue. I think the bones of the story was really, really good, but I just feel like it was really lacking in, like, heart and emotional impact and that element of, like... So I feel like this is one of those books that is technically proficient, but it's lacking a lot of, like, flair or pizzazz. Like, you know, when you hear somebody play on the piano and it's, like, you can tell it's technically fine. Like, maybe there are small flaws here or there, but it's not, like, emotional. And then you have someone who has, like, such a flair with how they play, or they, you know, obviously they're so familiar with their instrument that every single piece of that music is full of emotion. I feel like what happened here is it was lacking that. Like, it felt like it was lacking a lot of, like, punch, emotional moments, because I don't feel like she quite fully understood how to manipulate the mystery and the romance together in a way that resulted in something that was other than just technically fine, right? So I feel like in my mind that kind of is either this is a rare miss and this is my first book by this author, or, and I hate to even say that because she was writing for a long time, right? So, or she just hasn't reached that level of mastery and, like, emotional manipulation that makes art really feel powerful. Yeah, I feel like the hero was fine. I feel like, you know, I mentioned earlier, I liked how she kind of had some trauma from her marriage with her previous husband, and I liked seeing her kind of work through that with Chase. I think she was actually a really good heroine. I liked her, but I do feel like they both were kind of lacking personality, and even though they both had secrets about their past that they were kind of trying to, like, you could tell the author was kind of keeping you on the edge of your seat to reveal them slowly, it still just sort of was like, I just didn't really care when we learned about their past. I just didn't really care a whole lot. So I feel like maybe that's just me. Maybe this would work better for somebody else, because, I mean, this has 4,000 reviews on Goodreads, 4,100, which is pretty good. 4,100 ratings for a historical. I feel like a lot of historicals have pretty low ratings, and it has an average 3.98, so that's not bad, you know? But it just resulted in a book that I was just very, like, ho-hum, don't really care. I want to finish this and move on to the next, you know? So 3 stars. But I will say that I am definitely interested in reading more from this author. Like, I'm really curious to see if she will have a book in her backlist that really moves me emotionally. Like, I would love that so much to find that, you know? So yeah, I don't think there was anything wrong with this, but it really was just okay for me. So 3 stars. So her writing was solid. I feel like it was lacking a lot of emotional connection between the characters, and I think that what really pushed the romance forward, what really pushed the whole book forward, is their physical chemistry and lust, and then this mystery plot. And I don't think the mystery plot was interesting enough to really captivate me, and I also just didn't really care too much about their physical desire for each other. So, okay, now moving on to the next book, I decided to go with Any Rogue Will Do by Bethany Bennett. Let's see if it will focus on the picture. By Bethany Bennett. So this is a book I've had for a while. I feel like in 2020, I feel like there were a lot of new romance releases, new historical romance releases, and I kind of bought them all up, as many as I could, you know? So I still have a lot of them that I'd like to get through. So I'm on chapter 8. So I would say that's maybe 15 to 20% of the way through. And I am liking this one a lot better, actually, even though this one has a very low, when I went to go add it to my currently reading shelf on Goodreads, I just saw that it's not very low. It's pretty low. It's got a pretty low average rating of 3.7 with only 1,500 ratings. So I've never read this author before. I don't really know what to expect. This one is published by Forever, who I have liked their books. You know, they are the ones who publish Elizabeth Hoyt, and I love Elizabeth Hoyt. Absolutely devastated that she is, from everything that I've heard, that she is no longer writing historical romance. She's transitioning to fantasy romance, which just pains me greatly. And I feel a little bit guilty of that because I didn't like her last book and I wasn't quiet about it. Like, my review was 2 stars, you know? Anyway, so this book. So this is a fun one because we have our heroine who knew of the hero before. She had her season. She had 1 season where she was out, and she thought it was going really well, and she was having this romance with our hero named Ethan, who is a Viscount, and she thought it was going really well, but then something happened where he kind of ruins her reputation. And not in the type of way where they would have to marry, but makes her very undesirable, and she just feels like the pain and shame of that for so long, especially because she thought that he had feelings for her. So now she is finding herself in a situation where she is going to be manipulated into an engagement, and she doesn't want to be in there. And so she can't think of anything better to do to prevent that engagement from happening than by already being engaged. And so, of course, Ethan is the man who she kind of tries to guilt into doing that job. And I do really, really like that. I like both of the characters so far. I think that the setup for this has been really good. The way they first meet is very reminiscent of like an old school historical romance. Like, she runs in looking for help. She's got a wound on her head and blood, and that's how they meet for the second time. And he doesn't recognize her right away. And she's like, oh, you don't even recognize me even though you ruined me? And she's also described, I believe, as being like very curvy and lush and full figured. And he finds himself just constantly thinking about her beautiful body. And she's like feeling like, oh man, in all these years that I've been away from him, I've just been getting bigger and bigger, meaning probably like plump and curvy and beautiful, you know, and he's just gotten harder and I've gotten softer. And I feel like that is a little bit of like a modern day commentary in here, which I actually do like, because I love that when that happens, when our heroine is a little bit maybe self-conscious that she's not as thin as some of the other women. I really love it in historicals especially. But then you have the hero who just sees her as this lush, sexy goddess. Like, I love it. I love it so much. So I'm really, really interested in this. The hero does have a lot of like guilt, and he does still have feelings for her. So they're just kind of circling around each other. We're learning more about their past. And this also has a pretty charming like setting of the ton that is kind of giving me a little bit of Bridgerton vibes, just with how the ton is like almost a side character. It's not just something that's mentioned and then we're never there again. So I like that. I think it's pretty fun because I do enjoy the drama of the ton and the ballrooms and the people who are there. Like, I think that's pretty fun. So I'm liking this actually quite a lot. Again, still pretty early, but yeah, I'm gonna listen to this. I decided to go with this one because this was of the 2 physical books that I owned, this was the one that appealed to me most. And I also just, I've been seeing a lot of videos this year of like the Tackle My TBR, read it or unhaul it, and I want to do videos like that too, without necessarily like super committing to writing down all the physical books that are on my TBR, because there are so many. But so I decided to go with the physical book because I'm like, I really need to make my way through my physical books and either read them, love them, and keep them, or read them, be okay with unhauling them, because I'd be running out of shelf space. And I think I showed you guys, or maybe I just showed my patrons, like I have a new library room. With so many of our children moving out, we find ourselves with extra rooms, and so we're gonna do a library room. Maybe I did film a clip in there in the last vlog. I told you guys about it. So I am going to have more shelf space and more shelf room, but I still want to make more of a dent in my physical TBR, and I have a lot of historical romances, some of them that are just beautiful hidden gems that I would just really love to go through and read them and either find new favorites or whatever. So yeah, this is what I'm reading. Bethany Bennett. So far, I really like her writing style. I think it's really charming. I like how she has set up the story. I like how she is giving us good points of view from both the hero and the heroine. Like, it doesn't feel overly one way or the other. I like the hero's mindset. I'm really liking this. I'm charmed by it so far. So here's hoping that it carries on and I really enjoy it. So this vlog I think is going to be quite long because I feel like I've talked a lot already and I'm only 1 1/4 books in. But if I can, I would like to read one more book, but we'll see. I mean, these historical romances usually don't take me very long. We'll see if I can get through them and do one more book in this vlog. So, all right, my friends, thank you all for being here. I will talk to you soon. Hello, friends. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the vlog. Okay, so I finished a book. I finished the next book. I finished Any Rogue Will Do by Bethany Bennett, and I gave this one 3 stars as well. Like, I know when I was talking to you guys earlier, I was talking about I had a lot higher hopes for this. I really was liking the tone of this a lot better, and I feel like both this one and the Madeline Hunter kind of suffer from the same problem, which I think is basically that they're putting all of the elements in that make a successful historical romance, or that should, but I feel like they're lacking, like, emotional connection. Like, I don't feel like it has anything other than a textbook plot point, or a textbook meeting, or a textbook scene that a historical romance reader would want. And so I just feel like both of these were lacking a little bit of heart. And honestly, my biggest problem with this one is, you know, I was mentioning earlier that the whole gist of this is that she convinces the man, Ethan, who ruined her, to sort of have a fake engagement with her so that the guy who she really doesn't want to propose to her, like, she'll have an ironclad reason not to, you know? I'm still trying to figure out the lighting in this room. So I feel like this didn't really deliver on sort of like the baked in angst that type of situation would have, because you have, mostly because that doesn't even happen. That's not even a plot point until you're over 40% of the way into the book. It was like something like 43 or something like that. So you're in this pretty deep before they even enter into their fake relationship. And so, like, I remember feeling like I really liked the beginning, and then up into that 40% mark, I was like, okay. And they kind of, like, circle each other, and there is a little bit of interaction between the two of them, mostly the hero kind of pining and feeling sexually frustrated because he's so attracted to her, and he's battling with, he feels guilty. Anyway, like, it's a bit of a mess. And I just feel like it really wasn't super compelling to read. It didn't really satisfy me, honestly. And so once they do get into that fake engagement, and then they are in forced proximity a lot, then obviously, like, the sexual tension is very high, and they act on those feelings, but there's always this sentiment that the hero has that like he wants her physically and that's it, you know. And I feel like that is enough. And I don't mean this to sound like a negative way, but I know that is what a lot of readers want. Like, they want the situations in a historical romance that provide a baked-in reason for them to be together, and then the physical intimacy of that sort of baked-in relationship is what leads them to love. But I just sort of felt like, especially because we had so much inner dialogue of the hero and how much he wanted her, that it honestly just sort of felt a little bit like he was using the situation to get in her pants, essentially. And I don't know, I have a really hard time seeing the romance element of that when I feel like the author is showing me the hero is focused on one thing and one thing only. And I know I've talked about this ad nauseum, so I wouldn't say this was like necessarily a spicy book, but the driving force of him wanting to be with her is he wants her physically so bad, and then when he has her, he's like, oh yeah, actually I do love her, which, again, a very common trope. Like, that happens in a lot of historicals, but I think that some authors are a lot better at managing the transition from physical only to he realizes he has feelings for her and things like that. So I was disappointed with this, and 3 stars. Like, honestly, the first two, this one and the other one, were pretty forgettable, but only because the Madeline Hunter had a more unique plot, even though it wasn't, like, fulfilling, the mystery wasn't resolved. I feel like that one was more memorable, so I think I would try this author again. Now that I would go in with different expectations, and if I feel like, you know, if I read another one from her and it's kind of not, like, it has similar pacing issues, like 40%, that's way too long. That's way too long to get to the thing that's blurbed on the back, you know? I would probably DNF it. So, yeah, that one was a little disappointing as well, because I feel like that one I had higher expectations based on how I was feeling about that in the beginning. So, however, I am currently reading book number 3, and this is a book that I am absolutely loving. Like, I sent a screenshot of this to the Patreon Discord, and we have a historical romance chat, and I was like, you guys, I'm kind of obsessed with this. Like, I'm really having a great time with it. So, I'm about 30% of the way into Don't Let Your Dukes Grow Up to Be Scoundrels by Louisa Darling. So this is a book that I saw Sarah McLean last year sometime post about in her stories, said that she really loved it. There's even a blurb from her on the front of it. It says, stunning, sexy, I couldn't put it down, from Sarah McLean, like she blurbed it, right? And I understand how blurbs work, but I grabbed it because the Kindle version was really cheap, so I actually started reading that on my Kindle, and then I saw that it has an audio, and I believe these are indie published. It has an audio that's narrated by Mary Jane Wells, and she's one of my favorite historical narrators. Like, I adore her. I love her so much. So I grabbed the audio, and I've been having the best time listening to this one. So I did do the audio for the other 2 books in this series, but this audio is working for me a million times better. Like, I'm so invested in the plot, I'm so invested in the characters, I'm so invested in the romance. And even at 30% of the way through, we're having a lot of interaction between our hero and heroine. So this one is basically about our heroine, who came from a family, a well-to-do family. Her parents were actually a love match. Her mother was the second wife of, I can't remember what his title is. I always forget titles. Like, what kind of historical romance reader am I? Let's see. I don't know what title her father is, but it was his second marriage, and it was a love match. Like, they fell in love. They were deeply in love, her parents. So our heroine's name is Gemma, and her father was also a little bit of a risk taker, and so he actually is killed, not on page, in a carriage accident where he was racing, and essentially leaves them with nothing, or he leaves them with a house that he bought for his wife, who he loved, that was going to be the house he left for her. Now, they don't know what the house is or anything about it. They don't even know if it's going to be for sure left in his name, because they all have females in the line. So it's the male heir who has to see, like, oh, yes, you can have that house. So he's the one who says, yeah, you can go ahead and have that house. So they go to see what it is, and it's basically an inn. It's not a house. It's called the 5 Mile House. So at this inn, it's a little dilapidated. They have to, like, fix it up, and they meet Hal, who is our hero, who is actually a duke in disguise, and he's working at this inn in the bar. So something that Gemma desperately is in need of, because the inn is very dilapidated and they were kind of left with nothing. Like, obviously she needs, she's a fortune hunter. She needs a wealthy man to take her up on that. And she is absolutely a beautiful woman. Like, she's very beautiful. She's very curvy, has the figure that men are just like to die for over her, you know? And she quickly sees in this town that there are no eligible bachelors, and the only man that she's even kind of interested in is the bartender, but he comes from nobody, he has no fortune, so unfortunately he's out. So as soon as Hal, who is, you know, the Duke in hiding, as soon as he realizes that she is a fortune hunter, like, he very quickly is like, she can never know that I'm a Duke, like, absolutely not. So he keeps it a secret, he plays into, he's just a bartender, and they end up working close together because he's working in the inn and things like that. And of course, sparks and chemistry fly, and it's really, honestly, quite fun. It's really, truly so fun. Like, I really love this author's writing style. It does feel pretty modern. Like, I think the fact that Sarah MacLean blurbed it will let you know that this is a modern feeling historical romance. Like, it still feels like a historical, but it's one of those that feels more modern. And I would say it feels more modern than either of the two that I read previously. Like, there are a few anachronisms that I have caught already, but they're not anything that I find super reprehensible. Like, I'm pretty much able to put them aside and just continue reading because I'm enjoying it so much. Like, the author's voice is very bright, is very sharp, is very witty, the dialogue is so great. Like, this feels a little bit more on the rom-com type of historical, almost like, I hate to make this comparison because I know she is so well loved, but it is kind of feeling similar to a Tessa Dare in writing style. Now, not the same, right? So if that makes you want to pick this up, like, temper your expectations, because nothing really is, you know, like, I don't know what your version of a Tessa Dare is, but that's what it's reminding me of, that bright, charming, like, flash chemistry between the two of them, really great banter and dialogue. There are a few humorous moments, but it also has some emotional depth to it as well, right? Because once they come to this inn, Gemma's mother, who was very cheerful and happy about moving there, when she sees what her husband, who she loved and adored, left for her, I think that's really when the grief sets in and she kind of almost falls into a depression, seeing that he didn't take care of her, that he essentially left them, and this is all that they have to live with and to look forward to, and she's been used to living, you know, pretty grandly. So she is kind of, you get to see the opening scene where they're traveling to see what her husband left them, and then when she sees what it is, she's really kind of never the same, like, very depressed type of thing. But I will say that I really enjoy Hal's point of view. I really like being in his head. I think that he is a very charming hero. He's very clearly, like, a ladies' man, and also Gemma is not completely, like, naive to that. Like, she knows that this is a man who knows how to be with women, and she also, you know, is a bit of a flirt herself, and that's part of where I feel like the modernness of this comes in, because she is doing things that you wouldn't necessarily feel like a historical romance heroine would get to do, right? And there are conversations between her and Hal that are very modern in feel about what women can do and what they can't, right? So I feel like this is a historical romance fantasy type of thing, but it still has a lot of modern day feeling to it. And I don't mean to, like, turn you off on that, because I don't particularly like that as well. But I want to mention it again so that your expectations are tempered. But truly, I'm enjoying this one immensely. I'm very much engaged. Like, I don't want to stop listening to it. I'm really loving the story. I'm really liking the build-up. The build-up of the romance in here is really well done. And I think it's really well balanced with the overall plot of what's going to happen with this inn. So I'm having a great time with this, honestly. And I truly, truly hope this is a 5-star read. But, you know, to let you know about how I feel about this, I actually did, this is a series, so the one I'm reading right now is book 1, and the second book is already out. It came out in, like, November, so I immediately went and bought that as well, because I haven't found a new to me historical romance author in a while that I've loved, and I really enjoy this so far. And I will also say, I think this is very undiscovered, because it only has like 94 ratings on Goodreads. So here's hoping that she sticks the landing with this and that the romance works out really well, because so far it's charming as all get out. I'm having so much fun. And if you're looking for something that is kind of similar in feel to a Tessa Dare sort of that humorous, but also like romantic, great tension, great chemistry, I would definitely recommend this. So I'll let you know my final thoughts when I finish it, but that's where we're at so far. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the vlog. Let's wrap this up, shall we? It's Monday morning. I am just working and I just barely finished listening to the audiobook of Don't Let Your Dukes Grow Up to Be Scoundrels. Kazi is right down here, so I can't move. So I guess we'll have to not have my books in, so I can put a picture right there of the book. Don't Let Your Dukes Grow Up to Be Scoundrels by Louisa Darling. So this, I thought this was this author's debut, and if that was going to be the case, I was going to be very, very impressed, because I think the writing quality in this is really high, and I think her storytelling, for the most part, is really, really excellent. But when I finished the audio, at the end, it had a little tiny blurb about the author, and it essentially said that she has written over a dozen other romance novels under other names. It doesn't tell you what they are, so she definitely knows her stuff when it comes to writing romance. Like, she for sure, this definitely didn't feel like someone who wasn't experienced or wasn't like well versed in what makes a good romance. So I thoroughly enjoyed this. Like, I enjoyed this so freaking much. I am gonna give it 5 stars. I do feel like it's probably a 4.5, rounded up to 5. This is not 100% a 5-star read, but it's so close, and I feel like this author is really, really great, that I kind of want to talk about her a little bit more, because at least this is her debut historical romance. This is her first historical romance, and I think it's pretty undiscovered. So I had a fun time listening to this. I really enjoyed it. This audiobook was so much more engaging than the other 2 that I had read for this vlog. And while that may definitely be a little bit of Mary Jane Wells, just because she's such a fantastic narrator, she's my favorite historical romance narrator, I just love her. I do feel like there's just something about this author's writing style. Like, she really has a way to get you gripped and hooked. She does a great job of getting you invested in the characters and helping you feel like you know them, you're rooting for them. I like how she puts you in both the hero and heroine's head, and I really loved the hero's inner dialogue and his thought process about the heroine. Like, there are some moments in here that romance readers specifically are gonna go feral for, like mine, quick off the mark, like so many things that romance readers like, but they can sometimes feel just like forced or thrown in there to get romance readers. These don't feel like that. Like, these feel very integral to the story. They feel very organic. They feel true to the characters, and I just love that so much. I really love the romance in here. It develops over time, and like the other 2, the driving force in this is definitely their physical attraction and chemistry, and the fact that they really want to be together physically, right? But I do feel like of the 3 of them, this one had more heart. This one had more purpose for that, and this one really had more emotion and feeling in both in the build-up to that and after that. Like, there were scenes where they were thinking about one another and how much they wish that, you know, like the heroine's part, Gemma, she's thinking, oh, I wish he was like nobility so I could actually marry him. Like, she's really torn about that, because, and also I do really like, sorry, another tangent, that because of things that we learned throughout the course of the book about why she's so dead set on finding a fortune or somebody with a title, that all makes sense. It doesn't just feel like she's a fortune hunter. It doesn't just feel like she's doing that because that's what the Ton wants her to do. Like, she has ironclad reasons for doing that, and they make a lot of sense. So I really, really liked that as well. Now, as far as the hero goes, the way that he is keeping a secret about actually being the Duke, he has his own reasons too, and we don't 100% find out what they are until the heroine also finds out who he is, right? So that takes a good long while before we find out what his reasons are, and I could see that being a little bit of a sticking point for some readers, and they'll be like, why are you keeping this a secret, right? But I also feel like, well, I feel like her motivations were more solid. Like, I really could empathize with why she was doing what she did and why it mattered so much to her. His were a little bit weaker for me, right? And that's sort of where I come to, is it 4.5 rounded up to 5? Yeah, like, that's something that definitely made me feel like, okay, okay, I buy into that, I believe it, but it's not quite as strong as I was hoping for him to keep that secret for so freaking long, right? Especially when not only is he keeping the secret, but you know his feelings are growing and developing for Gemma, and he's so torn about, well, I have to keep this lie up because how can I tell her, but I think I love her and I can't think of anybody else. And so you have a lot of complexity in their thought processes and in the romance, and this really truly felt like an elevated historical romance. Like, I really, really enjoyed this a lot. I do feel like also, the love scenes in here, or any type of physical intimacy scene in here, was really beautifully described, and it was very powerful. Like, powerful in the way that it had you feeling things and thinking things both about the hero and heroine and how they felt about each other, and it added a depth to that I don't often see, and that I definitely feel was lacking in the other two books. So while this was very driven by their heat and their chemistry, it all felt like it had a purpose, like it had a reason, and that's my favorite type of romance, right? Like, I love that so much. So there's a lot to love about this book. I thought it was so good. I just had the best time reading it and listening to it. This is probably so far I think this is only the third book I've read this month because it's May 5th right now. But yeah, this is my favorite book of the month so far. And I'm so thrilled to have this new author because I know the second book is already out in the series. I have the audio right here. I'm probably going to listen to that as soon as I stop this vlog because I need a new audiobook. And I think I heard, or I saw on her Instagram, the cover just released for book 3. So, and I think that is Gemma's little sister. So I'm not sure who the second book is about, but I think the third one is actually finally about her sister. So let's see. I'm gonna look it up really quick. I'm gonna keep you with me as I look it up. Okay, so Scoundrel, Take Me Away. Yes, so that's Lucy's book. So that is Gemma's little sister. That's book 3. Book 2, I'm not entirely sure who that is about, to be quite honest. I don't want to just like keep you guys on the phone essentially while I'm trying to look this up, but yeah, I don't know at this point who book 2 is going to be about, but I'm very excited to continue reading more from this author. And as far as I'm concerned with finding a new, to me, historical romance author, like, this was just a huge success, honestly. I enjoyed this a lot. I think that if you love Sarah MacLean's books, there's a really high chance you're gonna enjoy the heck out of this. Like, I think you will really like this if you like Sarah MacLean. If you like Tessa Dare's books, I think there's a really good chance you will also really like this because it has that same, like, sharp, bright, sparkling wit, humor, and dialogue and banter, which I think is great, so I think you'll really like that. So I know those are two heavy hitters, and I really hesitate to compare because she's not 100% like either of those, but it's giving me that flavor, right? It's kind of giving me the flavor of if a Sarah MacLean and a Tessa Dare merged together, because while this book does have some angst in it, for sure, it doesn't feel anywhere near as angsty as a lot of Sarah MacLean's books do. And I think that it also really covers a lot of deep emotional stuff in here too, without ever feeling overly heavy. And I just feel like the whole time I was listening to this, I kept thinking that the banter and the dialogue is just such a classic historical romance thing that I just really love, and that's why I'm comparing it to a Tessa Dare. So I really, really enjoyed this, and I would definitely recommend it to anybody. So yeah, there you go. Alright, my friends, that was a really fun week of reading historical romance. I hope you enjoyed this reading vlog. If you have made it this far, please feel free to leave me a horse emoji because it was Derby weekend, Kentucky Derby weekend. And yeah, I'll see y'all in my next video.